maturity is as much of an issue in school. Like it seems like normal, like second, third grade boy immaturitiness, like it's not the teacher's main focus. So like, is it just a really different at home as
That's
far
why
as like, yeah,
that's why I thought the tier three
yeah.
supports.
That's a good idea. What virtues do we feel that are in conflict with each other and should be prioritized?
Mhm.
Um,
Cooperation and openness.
mhm.
Like, yeah.
Because obviously we want the principal to attempt to cooperate with the parents, but the parents need to also be open-minded.
Yes.
Be open-minded and to also pursue.
I think they could use some intellectual humility in the context that they are not receiving feedback very well. They are so
True.
they're so sure that they're right.
Let's see. Any other virtues in conflict with each other, do we think?
Mm, that one sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Stakeholders, John, Mr. and Mrs. Dolan, principal, the teachers, outside tutor.
Hmm.
Um, I guess at that, I mean, other district administrators.
Well, was there a special ed coordinator somewhere? I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that was the thing.
Yeah.
Also, the students in his classroom, if there's a much older student, not much older, but an older student that does. I think it could be both too, not necessarily just like an older student, but
Mhm.
if the BIP that they're using is causing disruptions to the academic environment, like at what point is that impacting the
So,
students? At what points are they using those tier three supports and how are they documenting that if they want to use those tier three supports?
all right. So examine the emotions, interests, relationships, and perspectives of everybody. So our boy
Or
John.
or John. I'm trying. I'm
Yeah.
trying to read. I'm trying to do the math. Yeah.
Trying, which is probably returning to him getting frustrated.
But it did come out that he did have the learning disability.
Hmm.
And I think the school has shown or been able to articulate sometimes students in any context having those small wins and those small gains can show like these are the things that you are doing and these are the things that you are getting better at. Because I think sometimes with his behavior, it's you're still not this, you're still acting immature, you're still doing all the wrong things. So there's really none of where he's had the positive supports in the academia, he has not had that social emotional gain or anything to articulate this is how we exude these traits. Like there's no authentic experiences for him to be able to navigate that. It's just we're documenting is
Say intervention. I would say that was, you could put the tutor.
Oh,
We
yeah.
said we got an interventionist, I thought at one point.
Well, yeah, but they've already evaluated him. They've done a case study on him.
Um,
But like who's at the, and the interventionist state information supported that. So we have principal, parents, tutor, special education teacher, the director.
Is it the special education director or the supervisor?
The supervisor, sorry.
color supervisor in this one.
I mean, I guess I'm assuming, my assumption is they're the same, but one and the same. Um, well, and then his other stakeholder is himself. Like he's a stakeholder because he's about to be like taken back a grade, you know.
Right,
And if we're talking about a kid that's like immature, apparently to the parents, it's going to create issues. So,
right.
all right. So it says examine the emotions, interests, relationships, and perspectives of all stakeholders. Well, I think they're high emotions, especially from the parents. They are clearly emotionally invested. Um,
I mean, there's frustration between the team because things are
yeah,
not being.
frustration, the parents, frustration between the parents and the team. And then the relationship with the students, because that will be like between the student and his potential new peers or old peers if he was to be retained.
Right. So that will be another.
Be like the social emotional relationship that it, or the social emotional impacts it would have on the student slash students. Um, Principal is acting in the best interest of the child
Yeah, trying to figure out
is
like restrictive.
in conflict with parents' perspective. So I would put, yeah, explore the values, virtues, and beliefs that may impact the state. Um, yeah, they want least restrictive environment. Um, and parents don't want to take accountability for the
The
fact that
parenting
they played a
style.
role. Yeah, they potentially played a role in his immaturity.
Right.
Mm,
And then another will be acceptance, right? Another virtue. Acceptance, like embracing life on its own terms.
Yeah,
Like this is the way your child is, and this is what we can offer. Like
yeah.
let's work together. They're just not
That
accepting it.
acceptance that maybe the data is, I mean, that's interesting that the tutor from another school, did they say that the tutor, which was the other teacher, works in the district or in
yeah.
that lady's district?
But then what kind of data is the tutor
Go to
actually showing?
another school in the same district.
Okay, so that's a conflict of interest for her, like to go against her own districts.
Well, and even if you like think if like let's say she works at a middle school, like she may not it may have been a while since she's like taught third grade or second grade.
Right, but I'm sure there's
So,
some conflict of interest within her. Like, I may not see eye to eye with, okay, for instance, 2 years ago, there was a little girl. I was like, she does not have dyslexia. She does not have dyslexia. Like, I know I'm dyslexia certified. No, she does not have dyslexia. And they wanted to, the advocate like was like, yes, she does. Yes, she does. And so I proved wrong. But then there was, and like, I made a, the advocate came to me for another student, and I couldn't give her information about this other student, or like I could just look at it, but I couldn't say anything because it was a conflict of interest for me to go against what my district, because this other student was in my district. So it would have been a conflict of interest for me to go against what my district was already providing.
All right. Could we say administration likely to
What's the
um,
question? I'm sorry, which question are we on?
recognize and name biases? I'm
Oh,
wondering beyond just looking at a school, like Isaiah's last thought, thinking about the administrative perspective.
well, their bias is that retention is not so it's not helpful. Or that, like you said, like we should make decisions based on the data that we have.
Which if we want to even discuss ahead, like to like phase three, where it talks about like what decision would the profession expect. I mean the profession, our profession would expect that a kid is not retained if
Mhm.
they're meeting benchmarks. I mean, just think it,
Who owns the moral issue?
I think the principal and the team, because they're doing the most, in most instances they're doing a lot of the communication with the parents, so like they have to make sure that they're relaying the proper information as well to both parties.
Okay. I also put parents down. Is that wrong? Because
No,
they're so
I mean they have a
one-sided.
moral obligation to take care of their child.
Yeah. All right. Next one is what decision would the profession expect?
That the decision is made based on the data that they have.
and I would just think that the community, I mean, a community respect that you do whatever is in the best interest of a child of that.
Got it.
But they probably would expect, they also would value and listen to what the parent is saying, try to, you know, community respect, probably there to be meetings and for you to hear them out and you know, just because you're a person out doesn't mean you have to agree with what they're saying, you know.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. The right decision based on what is best for students. That he moves on. It's a little redundant.
Uh, Anything else for noise? I think probably just those two.
Yeah.
Um, Recognize and name biases. Um,
I think teachers are doing a good job at meeting the academic challenges or trying to figure what those are.
Mhm.
Um, let's see.
It kind of seems a little bit like they're data rich, but information poor. Like they're collecting this data, but then other than like academics, like how they're connecting it to the entirety of the student, like how that's making those supports unique to the overall success of the student, I think is lacking. So I think
I agree.
when you talk about like fidelity of the IEP, I think they're writing the BIP and I think that they're doing the other supports. But as far as the long-term efficacy of the IEP, I feel like it's lacking.
Who are our players that own the moral issue?
Mm. John, he's putting in the work.
Johnny.
He really is. He's trying his best.
Is it principal?
I would say the principal. I mean,
But
because he's at the end of the day, he's responsible for what the decision comes to.
I think he needs to be more assertive.
Yeah, I think he's like trying to guide. Like he's saying, you know, like I wouldn't have that conversation or I wouldn't do that. Like he's trying to create those parameters, but he's just, yeah, not asserting like that leadership skill set and the idea where you have to have confidence in difficult conversations. I feel like he knows what he should do and what has to be done, but he's just not quite there yet on just fully committing like this is what needs to be done. I agree, Mariella.
I think to an extent the parents also own the moral issue. Like they're trying to advocate for what they think is best for John, but they're, like we said earlier, they're not being open-minded. They're not fully having the conversation. They're just one way. They're not looking for feedback on their opinions.
Mm-hmm. I think it kind of falls back to like they don't know what they don't know either, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if we're not illuminating supports and best practices and services that we could offer that could benefit based off of the goals on the IEP, then they're like, this just seems overwhelming. So we're
Mm-hmm.
just as much as, let's say we were receiving feedback and like an evaluation, right? We need to show them this is how we get to that goal and this is where we go with that. Right now, I feel like it's just such an overarching idea of like these are big behaviors, but we're not showing them like where we can take those big behaviors. So we need to really guide them in their way of knowing this is how we change that. And I don't think they have that vessel.
Right.
Alina. Yeah, so then looking
What
at,
is the consensus and defend the final decision? So
I
is
can't
it
come up with an option C.
you can't come up with an option C?
I think because it's so black and white. I don't know. I have a hard time with it.
And the only thing I could think of is like keep trying to, well, they're already so frustrated or mad. As a social worker, I don't like discomfort or I want to like fix it.
Yeah,
Like if
I
there's
don't
a
like
way,
discomfort. I like to fix it.
I just feel like there needs to be more conversations, but if people are shut down, then they're shut down. You can't
Yeah, I think they're shut down already because the parents
change.
don't want to have a conversation and they've already reached out enough times.
So I can put no, both parties at
Both
least
parties seem to be,
have reached high levels of frustration
frustration.
and needs to move to the next step in the due process.
Right.
Needs to move.
Come to consensus and defend your final decision. Our consensus is option A, right?
Right.
At least in option A, both sides are heard.
Yeah.
And parents feel maybe parents will feel that it's more equitable being heard because and they'll understand the process a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is a mediator and not a full on like have you
And
ever
then
had
we also
a
have to think about, how they mentioned they were in the early 50s or so. They're like old school. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
is this the oopsie? Is the little guy the oopsie?
It didn't really say that, but it did say the parents
That's,
were
it does
older.
sound like that. Oh, the oopsies that have the older siblings. Oh, they're always the babies. They're always
right. They
my brother
continue
does that.
baby.
You're like, no. I had one once tell me that like, can you open fill my water bottle and open it up and then tie my shoe? And I was like, no. He's like, I'm the baby. I was like, you're not my baby. Let's go. And he looked at me like,
All right. Does your final decision differ from your initial reaction?
no.
No.
No. How did your personal and professional ethics influence the final decision? I think we want what is best for the student.
We were like
Mhm.
student centered for sure.
We want
We
these
focused on looking at the data
focus on data.
and less on emotions.
Because he's making progress. So, I mean, there's no reason why he should be retained.
He's 6 months behind. Like, man, if
Yeah,
you had a kid that
that
was six
much.
months behind,
Well,
girl,
if
they
he's
wouldn't
made,
even be on my caseload.
yeah, if he's made that many gains, and I mean,
Be
something's
like, you
working.
are moving to tier 2. See you later, alligator.
What leadership styles would an ethical and moral leader need to call upon to deal with this?
Make it worse and make them feel like they're not being heard or understood.
That was well said, Dr. Green. Based on the leadership styles there, Isaiah, you feel like we're good? I just erased one of them.
Yeah, I
Okay.
do. I do. So where are we at here? Hold on.
We're on the very last question.
Last one, right? What leadership virtues and or character strengths and ethical and moral leaders needs to call upon?
Patience.
Collaboration.
Openness, like we talked about earlier. You know, this is the different type of thing. So trying to open up our thoughts to have that collaboration piece.
Integrity.
I think flexibility.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Spellman, I think we nailed it, okay?
I think you're the fastest group. Yes, you did. Okay, I'm going to call you back in about 3 minutes, okay? So relax.
All
Yeah.
For more stakeholder input for appropriate placement as well as accommodations. And then option C was just the student retention.
Okay, and then we had Eileen, Sadie, and Norma.
So we just had two options. We did not have an option C because we saw it very black and white. We were already going down the road to due process, so it said go ahead with due process to keep the student in the correct placement and until the due process is done, keep him in the grade level he's at and continue receiving services for SDL or SLD in reading. And then our option B, which wasn't really an option, was retain the student to ease parents' frustration and stress.
And which one did you go with?
A.
Okay, all right. Isaiah, John, and Brandy.
Sorry, my computer froze up. So we had option A was maintain levels of support while moving John on to the next grade. Option B was call for another meeting with trusted admin/teacher and represent the case for moving John on, as well as offering social work opportunities and options to support the social growth of John. And then option C is retain John, but provide enrichment opportunities so that he's better familiar with next level content and rigor. And we ended up going with option B.
Okay, all right. Any strong takeaways from dealing with this case? No enthusiasm.
I think like we ended on talking about like how like even if you don't agree with the parent, how can you still kind of meet them where they are and somewhat give or address whatever the concern is, but kind of like being flexible in your thinking about how you address that concern, right? It's like if you're concerned about his maturity level, then we can address that, but it doesn't have to be retention. And so like being able to have conversations where you can kind of meet in the middle ground where you're not doing something that's like could be detrimental for the kid, but then also trying to address whatever the parents' concerns are.
Yeah, dilemma for sure, right?
I think it was very important, like we kept addressing like the law because it's so black and white in this case, and it was just kind of like, well, you legally have to provide the student with this. And there's like things put in place so that when there's disagreements about placements and when there's disagreements about certain things, you have to um, kind of abide by them.
And I think it was, it was complicated because there was other issues floating around in the background, right? Like perhaps noise, but the fact that the parents were older parents in their 50s, the fact that they had a teacher from the same school district tutoring their child, um, so there was a lot of other factors that were kind of floating around there that made it interesting, let's say. Any other comments about the case study? Okay, well, I have opened up week 8. You can access most everything there, except for the materials we're going to be working with next week. Next week will be your last week as a North Central candidate, so exciting, be at the finish line. The difference next week is that there won't be any formal presentation, but we will be spending a lot of time with the ethical dilemma because if you may remember, or maybe you don't remember, but we're going to be doing an ethical dilemma that's it's kind of similar to the format that you might see in the 196 exam, where you're going to be presented with a case and you're going to be presented with some supporting documents. And you're going to deal with that using our ethical dilemma reflection framework. And then once you've worked through all of that, instead of coming back together and sharing, you're actually going to watch a video of actors portraying the scenario again, and then go back into your groups and talk about, anything that has kind of changed in your thinking or additions you want to make after, in the first part, you're just reading the documents, looking at the supporting documents. In the second part, you're going to be actually watching professionals portray the whole thing. So it's always kind of an interesting evening. Any questions before I send you off for the evening? Okay, well, I wish you and your loved ones a very happy Thanksgiving. Be safe. Don't eat too much, but eat enough. I'll see you next Monday night. Thanks.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
You saying bye? I gotta let him say bye. He wanted to wave. Say bye.
Bye.
Bye, Dr. Spellman.
Okay, bye-bye.
Dr. Spellman, I'm not sure if you saw my email, but my project will get turned into you.
Yeah, you were having trouble
I
with your computer, is it? Or
my district is in the process of this is like our final contract with these computers, and we're in the process of switching to new computers. And I've just been locked out of like all of my North Central stuff until today.
okay.
Like I kept getting errors on my email. I couldn't access anything.
Frustrating.
So
Yeah.
I
No,
just have to.
I am way behind, so don't worry about
Okay.
it.
As soon as you said that you didn't listen to them all yet, I was like, yes, okay, I could get this turned in. And I apologize for that. It's not usually like me by any means.
No,
But it's just
there's just too many things coming in this weekend, and I literally took yesterday off because my head was spinning. So I'll dig
yeah,
into it over the next couple of days, but I'm not going to rush through because I want to spend some time with my babies too. So I promise
perfect.
I'll have it in plenty of time so that you can upload it for the showcase and be ready for next week. So
Everything else on my portfolio is already completed, so
Right.
I just have to do this and write my reflection, and I am done.
You are, yeah.
With everything, I've had my final meeting, all of that, so it will get turned in, I promise.
Awesome. Okay, well, you'll have lots to be grateful for.
Thank you so much. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.